Um, so I'm trying to give one of these to every kid in Africa. And, sorry. This being, sorry, Ross. This being Los Angeles, I thought I'd start with a car story. In the early 60s, Henry Ford II was trying to buy Ferrari. And after a year or so and millions of dollars invested in an audit of the company and everything, the deal fell through at the last minute. And Ferrari was winning every race at Le Mans with this car, and it's just a gorgeous piece of design. But Ford decided that, you know, he was so upset about this deal falling through that he wanted to set out to design a car that would crush Ferrari. So what the Americans did is they came up with this car called the GT40, which is just a brute. And it's the 40 inches refers to that it's only 40 inches tall off the ground. And they got it designed, engineered, built, and they went to hire a driver, and they found Dan Gurney, who's 6'3" tall. And when he got his helmet on, he couldn't fit in the car. And so you'll notice over his head, they just deformed a little bubble for him. And this, for me, is the most beautiful part of this car. And for the simple reason that it's the only thing in the design that references the human body. And for me as a designer, that's what I try and do, that I try and put the person at the center of the process of design and make it very human-centered in that manner. Now, most designers wouldn't do that, particularly the Italians, not to be jingoistic about it, but they would never allow something peculiar, ugly, or odd enter in, disrupt the purity of their concept. But this is opposed to us Americans who put scoops and spoilers and whatever on this thing to just, get her done. It's going to make it go fast. So, it's this approach that I think is like distinctly American, and I think it's what I call the American idiosyncratic, and it's a way of designing that instead of focusing on like the purity of a concept, it focuses on concrete solutions to get things done. So a good example of this might be the difference between the body of a weightlifter, where in shaping your body this way, it's striving for an artificial ideal, something that's symmetrical, that's beautiful, defined, but the proportions get really out of whack to the point where you can't imagine this person doing any kind of sport or real kind of work like running a state, So you take that as opposed to like a workman's body, which through repetition and hard work, you build up muscle that's asymmetrical, but it's ideally suited to its purpose. And so for me, this has a lot more beauty because the beauty rests in utility. And so in my work, I'm really interested in designing objects that are kind of like this work, or journeyman pieces that haven't been designed well before, and that with a designer's eye, you can through evidencing utility, reach a deeper kind of beauty. So now I focus on this area of design because, first of all, I think that there's greater room for me to be innovative, but more importantly, I can give people a greater connection with their day-to-day life and their interaction with their environments. And I'm an architect. I do, a lot of custom stuff, but I'm going to focus more on the product design today. So, when my wife was pregnant with twins, I made the obligatory pilgrimage to the glider rocking chair store, and it was just kind of shocking that this was about the best you could do. And it's got this horrendous little apparatus under it, and whatever. But you sit in these things, and the motion is amazing. They're really comfortable. They're very soothing, and that's why they sell like hotcakes. But I mean, they're so ugly to the point where most of them they even conceal that mechanism by they put a skirt around the bottom of it. But I didn't show that one because then you couldn't see that beautiful mechanism. So anyway, I decided that this, we needed to domesticate this object enough so that it was, could go into a home. And so what I came up with, it was just reimagining this to evidence how this motion happens and try and return some kind of joy to the experience of using one of these. And so the seat is suspended with a simple rope that runs through the body of the chair, just like your childhood rope swing. And the front leg pivots to allow and capture the movement. And I do these designs and try and reduce them to the most to the point where nothing else can be taken away, to make everything very clear. And this is the real embodiment of the chair. This is another good one. For about 5 years, I wouldn't put one of these in my office because it was so just ugly. And but one day I was looking at it, and I was just still frustrated by it. And I was like, well, why doesn't the water come out when you tip the bottle upside down? And maybe Daniel from JPL can help me out with that. But anyway, I decided to really look into that and try and figure out what was going on there. So the solution became to design a water tower with where the vessel is glass so that it evidences the physics of what's happening, where the bottle just comes down and kisses the meniscus of the water. And it turns the water into one of the material elements of the composition. And so, and of course, in these days, you want to know that your drinking water is pure, so it plays up that idea of purity and clarity, half full, half empty, etc. We also did a floor standing version. It's more like a Roman or artisanal well sort of thing. Another object that we've done is taking the standard workhorse, which is the platform for every architect's office I know in the world, a couple of doors and a couple of these, and we thought, how can we make that thing better? So this was originally designed, I got my first patent on this actually, but it's taking the beam structure and turning it into a power and data delivery thing that works as a wire management chase. So we invented this thing that would be cash and carry, buy it at Home Depot or whatever, and take it home, get a door, and you're automatically set up to go. So we probably don't need to watch this whole video. Yep, there's the power. So I'm looking at the clock going, oh man. So we'll skip over that one. Another one is manufactured housing. And this is a typology called the recreational park trailer. And no lie, this is out of somebody's promotional website. I mean, check out the Photoshop on this. It's just amazing. So I thought I could do better than that. But the problem was, when you were looking at that previous thing, you didn't really know what it was. Is it architecture? Is it a trailer? Is it what have you? So I set about to design a more architectural version of that. It's a legal classification of trailer. This is actually a vehicle. But you set them out on rural property. You don't need a building permit, so it gets around all kinds of codes. You just need a license plate and some car insurance. And you can put these on any kind of land zoned recreational. So we really kind of rethought that whole notion of a turnkey solution of prefab housing. There was a huge amount of engineering in this thing that's really hidden in such a simple package. But, the thing weighs about 11,000 pounds. So what they do when they build these things is we put them on a trailer that's pre-cambered. And a camber is an arch in the beam of the chassis. And when you put all the weight on it, it flattens out. And so it's very calculated to do that. But the problem is when you tow this, you get going 75 miles an hour down the freeway, and you hit a bump, and the whole thing unweights, and the camber comes back. And it just wants to throw the trailer off the chassis. So the whole thing is basically glued together because you can't have any mechanical fasteners that hold it together. So anyway, those are some of the projects that I've done. But all this leads up to kind of my work with Airstream. And how many of you guys have ever been in an RV? Anybody? Wow, my people. All right. So as you know, trailers and trailer parks have a special place in American culture, and it's not always a good one. And there are a lot of stereotypes associated with these vehicles, but at the heart of these things is this spirit of independence and mobility that's really captured the imagination of a generation of Americans. And, I, like a lot of other designers and architects, was originally attracted to these Airstreams because they had this, gleaming aluminum skin, this modern aerodynamic shape, and, they fueled all kinds of fantasy of travel and independence. But as I began to immerse myself into the culture, what I started to realize is that not only are these things about independence, but they're also about community. And all these old-timers will tell you that no matter where they go, they always have friends. And but over the course of about 75 years, the luster sort of started to wear off of this dream. And, trailer life was starting to look long in the tooth. So in 1999, at the height of the dot-com boom, living in San Francisco, I started to notice something. And I noticed that these ideas of independence and mobility and community building were also happening in parallel in the digital world. But there wasn't really a good vehicle or means to actually do it. So I had this idea that why not connect the dots between Airstream culture and digital culture. And so I took this concept to a company called Wilson Art, who's a manufacturer of plastic laminate, and they gave me the go-ahead to build a trade show, a mobile trade show booth using their product. And when this thing first got to my shop, I was just shocked because, the promise of that aluminum exterior was completely not happening on the inside. It was like, you know, it's kind of like this mountain cabin. You know, it had nothing to do with speed and mobility and the beauty of being on the road. So I needed to do some archaeology, interior archaeology, and find out what was authentic about this trailer. And so we peeled back all the layers of vinyl, stripped it down to the aluminum skin, and started to sculpt the interior with these flowing forms that would kind of blur the boundaries of, you know, connection to the shell, demarcate zones, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I see the clock is kind of really clicking down, so I'm going to fly through these. So anyway, that last trailer was really well received, and I took it to one of these rallies, and I found out all the old people were saying, yeah, you've got to do this. We're literally dying off. So I approached Airstream, got an agreement to do a new prototype for them. Actually, this is probably Ross's first world bike concept. I think it didn't go very well. The trailer concept. So anyway, I got to Airstream. I visited their shop, and I opened their prototype shop door, and it was just like my shop, only bigger. And I was pretty shocked and at that moment realized that this was going to be a radical shift for their company. This is what they were producing when I started working with them. But I got the go-ahead to do a prototype, and the real concept here was one of reductive detailing, removing things to give it a functionality, a notch for a handle, taking it down to the aluminum skin so that you reflect the exterior environment that you're in. The colors, if you're in the forest, the green kind of reflects on the aluminum. At the beach, the sand and blue tones reflect. And that's not a load of horse shit. It really does do that. So we came up with this prototype. Took another year to finally get into production with this model. We started with one model length, grew it to 3. It eventually reached 7 models under my signature plaque. Sorry, I'm just going to rush through. I'm out of time. But we doubled the size of the company in less than 3 years, and sales of my units now account for like 40% of their overall sales. But in the end, really, what I hope to have accomplished is this idea of creating a really well-balanced tool for travel, that it's stripped to its minimal requirements. This was a custom DJ trailer in Tokyo. And so what I hope is that it creates a connection with the experience or with travel instead of insulating you from it. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.